Our family's decision to embark on a camping trip into the heart of the Australian bush was met with equal parts excitement and apprehension. As we unloaded our gear under the vast expanse of stars, the cool evening air hinted at the adventure that lay ahead. "Dad, can we roast marshmallows tonight?" my younger brother Jake asked eagerly, his eyes wide with anticipation. "Sure thing, champ," Dad replied with a smile, patting Jake on the shoulder. "But first, let's set up camp and get settled in." Mum and Dad worked efficiently, setting up our tent near a babbling creek that promised fresh water and peaceful sounds through the night. Meanwhile, I helped gather firewood, keeping an eye on the surroundings that were already enveloped in shadows. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting hues of orange and pink across the sky, we gathered around the crackling fire. The warmth felt comforting against the chill of the evening, and the smell of burning wood mingled with the earthy scent of the bush. It was after dinner when I first noticed something out of the ordinary. A flicker of movement caught my eye from across the clearing where the darkness seemed deeper than usual. Squinting, I could just make out a figure swaying in a rhythmic motion. "Hey, Dad," I whispered, nudging him gently. "Do you see that?" Dad followed my gaze and furrowed his brow. He stood up slowly, picking up a sturdy stick that he kept nearby for safety. "What is it, Ben?" Mum asked, concern etching her voice as she noticed the tension in Dad's stance. "I'm not sure," Dad replied quietly, his eyes trained on the figure that continued its strange dance in the shadows. "Stay here with Mum and Jake. I'll go check it out." Heart pounding, I watched as Dad approached cautiously, the fire casting long shadows behind him. The figure seemed oblivious to our presence, lost in its own eerie performance. "Dad, be careful," I called out softly, my voice barely louder than a whisper. As Dad neared, the figure suddenly halted its movements and turned towards him. In the dim light, I could see the outline of a man, dressed in tattered clothes and barefoot, his face obscured by the darkness. Without warning, the man started moving towards our camp, his steps slow and deliberate. Dad gripped the stick tighter, ready to defend us if necessary. "Dad, he's coming closer!" I exclaimed, fear gripping my chest. In a swift motion, Dad stepped forward and held out the stick, his voice firm and commanding. "Stop right there! Who are you?" The man froze, his eyes wide and unblinking. For a moment, there was silence except for the crackling of the fire and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. "He doesn't seem right," Mom whispered, her hand reaching for Jake's shoulder protectively. Just as suddenly as he appeared, the man turned and retreated into the darkness, disappearing from sight as swiftly as he had come. "What was that all about?" Jake asked, his voice trembling slightly. "I don't know, buddy," Dad replied, still on edge. "But let's stay alert. We might not be alone out here." As we huddled closer to the fire, the tranquility of the bush was shattered by the unsettling encounter. Little did we know, this was just the beginning of a series of events that would unravel mysteries beyond our imagination in the vast and unforgiving Australian wilderness. The night after our unsettling encounter with the mysterious dancer in the bush was restless. Every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs outside our tent seemed amplified, keeping us on edge. Despite our unease, dawn eventually broke, bringing with it a tentative sense of relief. Over breakfast, we discussed the strange events of the previous night. Dad suggested we stay cautious and perhaps move camp if the unease persisted. Mum, always the voice of reason, reassured us that it was likely just a curious local or someone lost in the bush. As the day wore on, we decided to explore the area nearby, hoping to shake off the lingering sense of dread. The bush was alive with the sounds of native birds and the occasional rustle of kangaroos in the underbrush. Jake's enthusiasm was contagious as he pointed out wildflowers and odd-shaped rocks he deemed treasures. It was mid-afternoon when the tranquility was shattered once again. A pair of park rangers approached our campsite, their uniforms stark against the earthy backdrop of the bush. "Good afternoon," one of the rangers greeted us with a nod. "We received a report of a disturbance in this area last night. Did you folks happen to notice anything unusual?" Dad recounted our encounter with the mysterious dancer, while Mum and I listened intently, exchanging worried glances. The rangers exchanged a knowing look before one of them spoke again. "We've been looking for someone matching that description," the ranger explained, his voice low and serious. "There have been reports of a man behaving erratically in these parts. We need to ensure your safety." Their presence was both reassuring and unsettling. They conducted a thorough search of the surrounding area, checking for any signs of the mysterious man. As they combed through the bush, Dad assisted them eagerly, determined to ensure our safety and perhaps find answers to the unsettling events. After what felt like hours, one of the rangers called out from a nearby copse of trees. He emerged holding a weathered hat, dangling from a low-hanging branch. "Is this what he was wearing?" the ranger asked, holding the hat out for us to inspect. Dad approached and took the hat gingerly, examining it closely. The fabric was worn and faded, with a small tear near the brim. It seemed like a relic from another time, adding to the mystery rather than solving it. "Yeah, that's the hat," Dad confirmed, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "But where did he go? Who is he?" The rangers exchanged another look, their expressions unreadable. They assured us they would continue their investigation and advised us to pack up and return home for our safety. Reluctantly, we dismantled our camp, each of us lost in our own thoughts about the events that had unfolded. As we drove away from the bush, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than we knew. The hat remained a haunting reminder of the stranger whose presence had disrupted our peaceful retreat into the Australian wilderness. Little did I realize then that our encounter was just the beginning of a journey that would lead us deeper into the secrets hidden within the bush, where truth and mystery intertwined in ways that would change our lives forever. Returning home from our interrupted camping trip left us with more questions than answers. The hat we found dangling from a tree in the bush haunted our thoughts, its presence a constant reminder of the strange encounter with the dancing man. Dad kept in touch with the local authorities, hoping for updates on their investigation into the mysterious figure. Days turned into weeks, and life settled back into its routine. School started again for Jake, and Mum returned to her usual schedule of work and household chores. But for me, the memory of that night in the bush lingered, refusing to fade. One evening, as I was browsing through news articles online, a headline caught my eye. Local historian unearths forgotten tales of the Australian bush. Intrigued, I clicked on the article and began reading about a historian named Dr. Thomas Blake, who specialized in the history of the region where we had camped. According to the article, Dr. Blake had recently uncovered old journals and letters detailing life in the bush during the late 19th century. He speculated that there might be hidden stories and secrets buried within the landscape itself. The next day, I mustered up the courage to call Dr. Blake's office. To my surprise, he answered the phone himself. "Hello, this is Dr. Blake," a warm voice greeted me on the other end of the line. Hi, Dr. Blake," I stammered nervously. "My name is Ben, and my family recently had an unusual experience in the bush. I read about your research and was wondering if you could help us understand what might have happened." There was a brief pause on the line before Dr. Blake responded, his voice tinged with curiosity. "Of course, Ben. I'd be happy to hear more about your experience. Why don't you and your family come by my office tomorrow? We can discuss it further." Excited and nervous, I relayed Dr. Blake's invitation to Mum and Dad over dinner that night. Dad was cautiously optimistic, while Mum seemed relieved that someone knowledgeable was taking an interest in our strange encounter. The following day, we found ourselves seated in Dr. Blake's cluttered office, surrounded by stacks of old books and maps. Dr. Blake listened intently as Dad recounted the events of that fateful night, from the eerie dance in the darkness to the discovery of the weathered hat. Dr. Blake mused, stroking his chin thoughtfully. "Your story reminds me of an old legend that has been passed down through generations in this area. It's said that during the gold rush era, there was a prospector who went missing under mysterious circumstances. He pulled out a dusty old map from one of his piles and spread it out on his desk. According to local law, this prospector was rumored to have found a significant gold deposit somewhere in these hills, but he vanished without a trace, leaving behind only his hat, which was found hanging from a tree." My heart raced as Dr. Blake continued, his eyes shining with excitement. Some believe he became obsessed with protecting his find, dancing through the night to ward off intruders. Perhaps what you saw was a manifestation of that old tale. Dad exchanged a glance with Mum, both clearly intrigued by Dr. Blake's explanation. "But why would he appear now after all these years?" Dad asked, his voice filled with curiosity. Dr. Blake shrugged slightly, his expression thoughtful. Sometimes the past has a way of resurfacing when we least expect it. Perhaps there's more to discover out there in the bush. As we left Dr. Blake's office that afternoon, I couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of purpose. Our encounter with the mysterious dancer was no longer just a strange event. It was part of a larger story waiting to be uncovered. With Dr. Blake's guidance, we were determined to delve deeper into the secrets hidden within the Australian bush, where history and mystery intertwined in ways we had never imagined. Armed with Dr. Blake's insights and fueled by curiosity, our family set out on a quest to uncover more about the mysterious prospector and his connection to our unsettling encounter in the bush. The days grew longer as we pored over historical records, maps, and local folklore, searching for clues that could unravel the mystery. Dr. Blake proved to be an invaluable guide, sharing his extensive knowledge of the region's history and pointing us towards forgotten archives and elderly locals who might hold pieces of the puzzle. Each lead we pursued led to more questions, but we persisted, driven by a shared determination to unearth the truth. One afternoon, while exploring an old mining town on the outskirts of the bush, we stumbled upon a small museum dedicated to the area's mining heritage. Among the dusty artifacts and faded photographs, a weathered journal caught Dad's eye. "This might be something," Dad murmured, carefully turning the fragile pages. The journal belonged to a miner named William Thompson, who had worked the same hills where we had camped over a century ago. As we read through William's detailed entries, a chilling realization dawned upon us. He described encountering a solitary figure in the bush one night, a figure who danced in the moonlight and warned him to stay away from a particular part of the hills. "He called himself the Guardian of the Gold," Dad read aloud, his voice tinged with awe and disbelief. "Said he was there to protect it from those who would desecrate the land." The entries painted a vivid picture of a man consumed by a sense of duty and possession, guarding his discovery with a fervor that bordered on obsession. William Thompson's accounts mirrored the legend Dr. Blake had shared with us, intertwining history with myth in a way that sent shivers down our spines. With each new revelation, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The dancing man we had encountered in the bush wasn't just a figment of our imagination, he was a spectral echo of a miner's legacy etched into the very fabric of the land. Armed with newfound knowledge and a deeper understanding of the bush's secrets, we returned to Dr. Blake's office to share our discoveries. His eyes lit up with excitement as we recounted our findings, piecing together the threads of history that had eluded us until now. "It seems you've stumbled upon a story that has been buried in these hills for generations," Dr. Blake remarked, his voice filled with admiration. "But remember, there are still mysteries waiting to be unraveled. The bush holds its secrets close." As we left Dr. Blake's office once more, I glanced back at the stacks of books and maps, knowing that our journey was far from over. The Guardian of the Gold had left his mark on us, igniting a passion for exploration and discovery that would shape our lives in ways we had never imagined. With the hat as our talisman and the bush as our guide, we embarked on the next chapter of our adventure, eager to uncover more about the enigmatic figure who had danced through time to protect his precious secret in the heart of the Australian wilderness. Armed with the journal of William Thompson and Dr. Blake's guidance, our family felt a renewed sense of purpose as we delved deeper into the mysteries hidden within the Australian bush. We embarked on expeditions into remote parts of the bush, following clues from the past and searching for traces of the Guardian of the Gold. Our first expedition took us to a rugged ridge overlooking the valley where William Thompson had worked. The air was thick with the scent of eucalyptus, and the chorus of cicadas filled the silence as we hiked along narrow trails, mindful of every rustle in the underbrush. "According to the journal, this is the area where the Guardian was said to appear," Dad remarked, scanning the landscape with a mixture of anticipation and caution. We spent hours exploring the rocky outcrops and dense thickets, our senses heightened by the weight of history that surrounded us. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the land as we continued our search. As darkness began to fall, we made camp in a secluded clearing, the flickering campfire casting dancing shadows on the trees. Over a simple meal, we shared stories and theories about the Guardian of the Gold, each of us captivated by the allure of the unknown. "I wonder if he's still out there, watching over his treasure," Jake pondered aloud, his eyes wide with wonder. Mum smiled gently, her gaze distant as if lost in thought. It's possible, Jake. Some legends have a way of enduring through time. That night, as I lay in my sleeping bag beneath a canopy of stars, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the brink of a discovery that could change everything. The bush seemed to whisper secrets in the rustling leaves and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. The following days blurred into a whirlwind of exploration and revelation. We discovered old mine shafts hidden in the undergrowth, remnants of a bygone era when gold fever gripped the region. Each artifact we uncovered told a part of the Guardian's story, a testament to his solitary vigil over the land he had claimed as his own. On our final day in the bush, we stumbled upon a weathered monument nestled in a grove of ancient trees. Carved into the stone were faded words that spoke of sacrifice and perseverance, honoring those who had ventured into the wilderness in search of fortune and adventure. "It's a memorial to the miners who lost their lives here," Dad explained, tracing his fingers over the weathered inscription. "They were pioneers, much like the Guardian himself." As we stood in silent reverence, a sense of closure washed over us. The Guardian of the Gold had become more than just a spectral figure from a forgotten legend. He was a symbol of resilience and determination in the face of adversity. With our hearts full of gratitude and respect for the land that had shared its secrets with us, we packed up our camp and began the journey back home. The bush had left an indelible mark on each of us, a reminder of the power of history and the enduring spirit of those who dare to explore its depths. As we drove away, I glanced back at the towering trees and rolling hills, knowing that the Guardian's legacy would live on in our memories. Our adventure had come full circle, but the bush had etched its story into our hearts forever, a testament to the timeless allure of the Australian wilderness and the mysteries that await those brave enough to seek them. Returning home from our expedition into the Australian bush was bittersweet. The memories of our encounters with the Guardian of the Gold and the revelations we uncovered lingered in our minds, prompting deep reflection on the journey we had undertaken. Over the following weeks, we found ourselves poring over the photographs and artifacts we had collected, each item a tangible link to the past we had explored. Mum diligently organized our findings, while Dad corresponded with Dr. Blake, sharing our discoveries and seeking further insights into the history of the region. For me, the experience became a source of inspiration. I found myself drawn to the local library, researching more about the gold rush era and the lives of the miners who had shaped the landscape we had explored. The stories I uncovered painted a vivid picture of hardship and determination, echoing the struggles of the Guardian and his relentless pursuit to protect what he believed was rightfully his. Jake, too young to fully grasp the historical significance, reveled in the adventure of our expedition. He regaled his friends with tales of our encounters in the bush, embellishing each story with his characteristic enthusiasm. As the months passed, our lives settled back into a semblance of normalcy, but the bush remained a constant presence in our thoughts. We often found ourselves reminiscing about the quiet moments around the campfire, the thrill of uncovering hidden treasures, and the sense of camaraderie that had united us as a family on our quest for answers. One evening, as we gathered for dinner, Dad cleared his throat and spoke with a newfound solemnity. "I think it's time we pay our respects," he suggested, his gaze drifting to the corner of the room where we had displayed the weathered hat we had found in the bush. Mum nodded in agreement, her expression softening with understanding. "It feels like the right thing to do," she replied quietly. The following weekend, we returned to the bush with a sense of purpose. Armed with a small memorial plaque we had crafted, we hiked to the spot where we had first encountered the Guardian of the Gold. The air was crisp with the promise of spring, and the bush seemed to welcome us back with a gentle breeze and the chorus of birdsong. Standing in silence, we placed the plaque beneath the towering gum trees, a tribute to the Guardian's enduring legacy and the stories that had brought us here. Dad spoke a few heartfelt words, honoring the Guardian's courage and resilience in the face of adversity. "We may never fully understand his story," Dad began, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "But we will always remember the spirit of the Guardian of the Gold, who watched over this land with unwavering determination." With a collective sense of closure, we bid farewell to the bush that had captured our hearts and forever changed our perspective on history and adventure. As we drove away, I glanced back at the memorial plaque, knowing that our journey had left an indelible mark not only on the landscape, but also on our family's bond and shared memories. The Guardian of the Gold had found peace in our tribute, his legacy woven into the fabric of the Australian bush, where stories of perseverance and discovery would continue to inspire those who ventured into its depths. Months had passed since our tribute to the Guardian of the Gold in the Australian bush. Life had returned to its usual rhythm, yet the memories of our adventure continued to resonate deeply within each of us. The hat we had found, once a mysterious artifact, now served as a poignant reminder of the journey that had shaped our family in unexpected ways. One brisk autumn afternoon, a letter arrived addressed to our family. It bore the seal of Dr. Thomas Blake's office. Intrigued, Dad carefully opened the envelope and unfolded the neatly written letter inside. "Dear Ben, Jake, Mum, and Dad," the letter began. "I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to share some exciting news with you regarding our research into the Guardian of the Gold." The letter went on to explain that Dr. Blake and his team had continued their investigation into the history of the bush and its legends. They had uncovered more references to the Guardian in historical documents and local folklore, piecing together a richer tapestry of his life and the impact he had left on the community. "We believe the Guardian's story is far more than just a legend," the letter continued. "It is a testament to resilience, stewardship, and the enduring spirit of those who call this land home." Excited by the news, we gathered around the kitchen table to discuss the letter's contents. Dad traced his fingers over the words, a smile spreading across his face. "It seems our journey isn't over yet," Dad remarked, his voice filled with anticipation. "Dr. Blake and his team are uncovering more about the Guardian's legacy. Perhaps there are still secrets waiting to be revealed." Mum nodded thoughtfully, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "It's amazing how our experience in the bush continues to unfold," she mused. "Who would have thought we'd become part of such a remarkable story?" Jake bounced in his seat, eager to share his thoughts. "Do you think they'll find more artifacts?" he asked eagerly. "Like the hat we found." As we discussed the possibilities, a sense of excitement filled the room. Our adventure in the Australian bush had not only connected us to the past, but had also sparked a deeper appreciation for the land and its rich history. In the weeks that followed, we eagerly awaited updates from Dr. Blake, each letter or phone call bringing new revelations about the Guardian of the Gold and his enduring legacy. We marveled at the resilience of the Guardian, who had stood as a silent sentinel over his prized discovery through decades of change and upheaval. As the seasons turned and another year passed, our bond as a family grew stronger. The lessons we had learned from our journey, perseverance, curiosity, and respect for the land, became a part of our everyday lives. The hat, displayed proudly in our home, served as a tangible reminder of the Guardian's story and the connections we had forged in the bush. And so, our story continues, woven into the fabric of the Australian bush where history and mystery intertwine. The legacy of the Guardian of the Gold endures, a beacon of inspiration for those who seek to uncover the hidden stories that shape our world and connect us to our past. As we look to the horizon, I am reminded that our adventure in the bush was not just a chapter in our lives, but a testament to the enduring power of exploration and discovery. Who knows what other mysteries await just beyond the edge of the wilderness, ready to be uncovered by those who dare to venture into the unknown. Months had passed since our last correspondence with Dr. Blake, and anticipation hung in the air as we eagerly awaited further updates on the Guardian of the Gold. The hat we found remained a constant reminder of our adventure, displayed prominently in our home as a testament to the mysteries we had uncovered. One crisp autumn morning, a letter arrived, bearing Dr. Blake's distinctive handwriting. With trembling hands, I tore open the envelope and unfolded the neatly typed pages inside. "Dear Ben and family," the letter began warmly. "I hope this letter finds you well. I'm pleased to share some exciting developments in our ongoing research. Dr. Blake detailed how his team had unearthed more historical records and first-hand accounts that shed light on the Guardian's life and legacy. They had discovered additional artifacts, including a faded photograph depicting a solitary figure standing proudly beside a makeshift mining operation in the bush. It's believed this photograph captures the Guardian himself, Dr. Blake wrote, his words brimming with enthusiasm. "We've been able to trace his footsteps through old mining sites and remote trails, piecing together a clearer picture of his solitary existence and unwavering dedication to his discovery." Reading Dr. Blake's revelations filled us with a renewed sense of wonder and curiosity. Dad carefully examined the photograph, his brow furrowed in concentration as he compared the figure to our own memories of the Guardian. "He looks determined," Dad remarked quietly, his voice tinged with admiration. "A man driven by a purpose greater than himself." Mum nodded in agreement, her eyes fixed on the photograph. "It's incredible to think that we were part of uncovering this history," she said softly. "To imagine the hardships he must have endured, guarding his secret in the wilderness." Jake, ever the explorer at heart, eagerly asked about the locations mentioned in Dr. Blake's letter. "Can we visit these places?" he asked, his eyes bright with excitement. "I want to see where the Guardian lived and worked." Inspired by Dr. Blake's discoveries, we planned another expedition into the bush, this time armed with newfound knowledge and a deeper understanding of the Guardian's story. Our journey would take us deeper into the heart of the Australian wilderness, where history and adventure awaited us at every turn. As we prepared for our next adventure, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the path that had led us here. Our encounter with the Guardian of the Gold had not only connected us to the past, but had also ignited a passion for exploration and discovery that would shape our lives for years to come. With Dr. Blake's guidance and the spirit of the Guardian guiding our steps, we embarked on the next chapter of our journey, eager to uncover more about the man who had danced through time to protect his precious secret in the rugged landscapes of the Australian bush. Our journey into the heart of the Australian bush had come full circle. Armed with Dr. Blake's research and our own memories of the Guardian of the Gold, we set out on our final expedition to the places where he had once roamed. The landscape had changed subtly since our last visit, the colors of autumn painting the bush in hues of red and gold. We followed the faint trails and old mining tracks, guided by markers left behind by generations past. Our first stop was at a remote mining site nestled deep within the hills. The air was crisp and filled with the scent of eucalyptus, and the silence of the bush enveloped us as we explored the weathered remnants of the Guardian's camp. "This is where he lived," Mum whispered, her voice carrying a mixture of awe and reverence. Surrounded by this rugged beauty, guarding his secret. We discovered rusted tools and worn-out mining equipment scattered among the rocks, remnants of a time long gone but preserved in the timeless embrace of the bush. Each artifact told a story of perseverance and resilience, echoing the Guardian's unwavering determination to protect what he held dear. As we continued our journey, visiting other sites mentioned in Dr. Blake's research, a sense of closure settled over us. We had pieced together fragments of the Guardian's life, unraveling the layers of history and legend that had intertwined to create his enduring legacy. Standing at the edge of a cliff overlooking the valley where the Guardian had once worked, I felt a profound connection to the land and its stories. The bush whispered secrets in the rustling leaves and the distant call of a kookaburra, reminding us of the mysteries that still lingered beneath the surface. At our final destination, a secluded clearing where the Guardian was believed to have spent his final days, we erected a small cairn of stones as a tribute to his memory. Dad placed the weathered hat we had found atop the cairn, a symbol of our journey and the bonds we had forged along the way. "We may never know the full extent of his story," Dad said quietly, his voice carrying across the clearing. "But we will always remember the Guardian of the Gold, who watched over this land with unwavering dedication." As we stood in silent reverence, I realized that our adventure had not just been about uncovering history or solving mysteries. It had been about discovering the power of resilience, the importance of preserving stories, and the enduring spirit of those who call the bush their home. With hearts full of gratitude and respect, we bid farewell to the Guardian and the Australian bush that had captured our imaginations and left an indelible mark on our lives. Our journey had come to an end, but the legacy of the Guardian of the Gold would live on in our memories, a beacon of inspiration for future explorers and storytellers who dare to venture into the wilderness in search of their own truths.